Friday the 13th. Chapter 1. The Black Envelope. I didn't notice it at first. Just a black envelope sitting on my kitchen counter when I came home from work. No stamp. No return address. Thick paper. Smooth. Unsettlingly heavy. I assumed it was junk, some new marketing scheme. Until I saw my name. Handwritten. Not printed. Not typed. And sealed in red wax, pressed with a circle of unfamiliar symbols. No one else in the building got one. No one saw it delivered. And I sure as hell didn't put it there. I left it alone for hours. Made dinner. Scrolled my phone. Half-watched TV. But it was still there, sitting on the counter like it was waiting. Eventually, I gave in. I cracked the seal and unfolded the card inside. There was no message. Just 5 words, centered, printed in a red so dark it was nearly black. You've been selected. Beneath it. Join us. 1:13 a.m. Bring nothing. Tell no one. That was it. No location. No name. No instructions. Just a time. It was already Friday the 13th. And I don't believe in superstition. Not really. I've never knocked on wood, avoided cracks, or worried about walking under ladders. But the moment I touched that envelope, something inside me turned cold. Not fear. Something deeper. Recognition. Like my blood remembered something my brain hadn't learned yet. At 11 p.m., I googled it. I thought maybe it was a prank. A performance art thing. An ARG. Something to go viral. Instead, I found a dead Reddit thread, locked years ago. Just a single comment with 6 upvotes. If you ever get the black envelope, don't open it. If you do, don't miss the time. And if you miss the time, pray you're not the last to forget your own name. I refreshed the page. The post was gone. Gone like it had never existed. I looked back at the envelope. It was empty now. Only it wasn't. Because when I picked it up again, there was something inside it. A small slip of paper I know hadn't been there before. It read. We're already on the way. And outside my window, at the end of the driveway, a long black car pulled up. Engine silent. Lights off. It didn't honk. It didn't flash. It just waited. Chapter 2. The Vanishing Thread. I didn't get in the car. Not yet. It stayed there, parked at the edge of the driveway like it had all the time in the world. Its windows were too dark to see inside. The engine didn't make a sound. It just waited. Like it knew I'd come around. I went back inside and opened my laptop. Reddit. Twitter. Web archives. Forums you don't talk about in polite company. I searched for phrases like Black Envelope Friday the 13th. Invitation at 1:13 a.m. You've been selected. Bring nothing. At first, nothing but noise. People joking about superstition. Ritual pasta stories. Clickbait countdowns. Ghost hunting threads and real cursed object videos. But then I found it. A locked subreddit, r/the unwritten. Private. No moderators listed. The banner was a glitchy image of a dinner table, 13 chairs, 1 empty. And on the page, a single post. Just one. Do not open the invitation. If you already have, don't skip the meeting. If you skip the meeting, they come for you. And they don't just take your body. They take your echo. Your photos. Your history. You become a hole that reality seals over. You aren't missing. You're unwritten. At name erased 113. I tried to DM the user. Error. Account not found. I hit refresh. Post gone. Just like the one from before. But this time, I had screenshotted it. Just in case. Except, when I checked the screenshot folder, there was nothing there. I tried again. Nothing. Even my browser history was blank. Like it had all been a dream. I checked my phone next. Went to my photo album. Scrolled to a picture I'd taken with my mom last weekend, her birthday. Only now. She wasn't in it. Just a blurry patch of light where her body had been. No metadata. No tags. No backup version. Just me. Alone. Smiling at someone who no longer existed. My phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. Good job. Most ignore it this long. I didn't respond. The phone buzzed again. You've already started forgetting. Soon they'll forget you too. Finish the circle. Get in the car. I turned off my phone. Slammed the laptop shut. My hands were shaking. I looked around my living room, at the photos on the walls. Family. Friends. Memories. And one by one, the faces began to fade. Not dissolve. Not burn. Just soften. Like someone was gently erasing them with a fingertip. And in the silence, I realized I couldn't remember my father's first name. Couldn't remember the name of the street I grew up on. Couldn't remember what I had eaten for dinner. Outside, the black car was still waiting. Engine still silent. But the back door. Now it was open. Chapter 3 RSVP. The car door was open. Just the back passenger side, angled like an invitation, or a trap. The interior was pitch black. No cabin lights. No reflections. Just absence. I stood in the doorway for what felt like hours. The air was colder near the car. Not night cold. Empty cold. Like there was no air at all inside that vehicle. No oxygen. No sound. Like it was parked on the edge of space. And yet, something in me stepped forward. Not willingly. Not unconsciously. Just, inevitably. I sat down. The door closed without a sound. The moment it clicked shut, the world outside vanished. Not faded. Not blurred. Just gone. No headlights. No dashboard. No driver. Just a windowless interior, softly lit by some invisible red glow that pulsed faintly with each breath I took. We started moving. I didn't feel acceleration. Or turning. I didn't feel movement at all. The only proof we were going somewhere was the flicker of trees outside, barely visible through the deep tint of the windows, branches bending in the wrong direction, like they were recoiling from the road. At 1:11 a.m., the car slowed. A gravel crunch I didn't hear so much as feel in my teeth. And then, we arrived. The mansion wasn't a building. It was a shape. Black stone. Angled like a coffin. Not Gothic or modern or classic, wrong. No windows. No lights. Just flame-lit sconces surrounding a massive obsidian doorway. The car door opened on its own. And across the gravel path, in the flickering candlelight, stood a figure in a smooth black mask. No eyes. No mouth. Just a blank expression shaped from onyx. And in its hand, a book. It said nothing. Just nodded. Then turned and walked up the steps. I followed. Each step echoed like it belonged in a much larger space than what I saw. Inside, the hallway was impossibly wide. The floor was black marble with veins of red that pulsed faintly, almost like veins. The walls were lined with paintings, all turned backward. I stopped at one. Flipped it over. It was a portrait of me. But not me now. Me as a child. In a chair. Wearing a blindfold. And behind me, faint and grinning in the shadow, the mask. We entered the dining hall. It was as if the room had been pulled from someone's fever dream of wealth and death, a long black marble table lined with 13 chairs, 12 of them already occupied. Candles floated midair. No flames. Just the illusion of light trapped in wax. And at the far end of the table, one chair remained empty. Mine. The masked figure gestured for me to sit. I scanned the room. No one spoke. Each person at the table stared ahead, silent, blinking too slowly. Some were visibly shaking. Others calm. One, grinning wide, as if they'd waited years for this. As I sat, the masked figure stepped behind me and placed something gently on the table. A black envelope. Smaller this time. My name. Again. But this time, beneath it, another line. You arrived. You remember. That's step one. And then the mask whispered, the first sound since I arrived. Not into my ear. Into my mind. You opened the invitation. Now we open you. Chapter 4 The 13th Chair. The dining hall was silent. Not awkward silence. Not meditative silence. The kind of silence that feels like it's pressing against your skin from the inside. Like the room itself is listening for your thoughts. I sat in the 12th chair. And the one at the head of the table, larger, heavier, with curved black arms and symbols etched into the wood, remained empty. The 13th chair. I looked around. 12 strangers. Some stared straight ahead, locked in some private trance. Others looked down at their plates, empty white porcelain, and blinked slowly, like their minds were playing catch-up with their memories. One man, 3 seats down, was crying silently. No sound. Just tears running over a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Across from me, a woman in a faded blue dress clutched something in her lap. I couldn't see it clearly. Just the edge of it, a black envelope identical to mine. Her fingers gripped it like a lifeline. No one spoke. No one moved. The candlelight above the table didn't flicker. It hovered, motionless, like flame frozen in amber. And then, a sound. Not footsteps. Breathing. But not from any of us. It came from the walls. From the marble. From underneath. And with it, a voice, not spoken aloud, but somehow clear in the center of my skull. One of you made the pact. A few heads turned. Not toward the voice, but toward each other. The woman in the blue dress gasped. One of you broke it. The lights dimmed. One of the candles began to twist, stretching unnaturally like it was being pulled upward by an invisible thread. One of you must feed it. The candle snapped. The flame extinguished. And the lights went out. For 5 full seconds, there was only darkness. Real darkness. Not the absence of light, but the presence of something else. Something that watches. That breathes. That counts the heartbeats of everyone in the room. When the lights returned, everything was exactly as it had been. Except one thing. One chair was now empty. The man who had been seated next to me, gone. No scream. No sound. No trace. His clothes were folded neatly on the chair, his black envelope tucked on top. No one reacted. No one even looked. Like he had never existed. Like his space had always been empty. I looked at the others. Their expressions hadn't changed. But I noticed something I hadn't before. They were all wearing name tags. Small, discreet, written in looping red ink. And as I looked down at my own chest, mine wasn't there. In its place, a small patch of paper I hadn't noticed before. Blank. I reached to pull it off. My fingers stopped. Not because I chose to, but because I couldn't move. And then I felt it again. That breathing. Only this time, it was closer. Like something had entered the room and stood just behind me, leaning over my shoulder, reading my thoughts, tasting my memory. A whisper slid along the back of my spine. One of you has already forgotten who they were. And soon, the others will forget too. I looked back at the 13th chair. Still empty. Still waiting. But now, something was different. Its arms were dusted with ash. And on the table in front of it, a red envelope. Unopened. Chapter 5 The Voice in the Walls. No one said anything when the man disappeared. No scream. No gasp. No acknowledgement. 1 second he was beside me, tapping his foot under the table, nervously folding and refolding his napkin. The next, he was just gone. And yet, his clothes remained. Folded neatly on the seat. Like a guest who had excused himself politely from existence. I tried to speak. To whisper. To ask the person next to me if they'd seen what I saw. But my voice stuck in my throat, thick, heavy, like I'd swallowed warm wax. Across the table, the woman in the blue dress was mouthing something. Over and over. Not a name. Not a prayer. Just. Not me. Not me. Not me. Then the room began to breathe. That's the only way I can describe it. The marble walls flexed, inward and outward, like lungs made of stone. The candlelight flickered, but there was no breeze. The air itself grew thicker, pressing against our ears, our skin, our thoughts. Then came the voice. Not a sound from a throat. Not a presence at the table. But a pressure in the walls. A resonance in the bones. A frequency that curled around your spine and settled behind your eyes. 12 have come. The voice was layered. Male. Female. Something else. One has fed. One of the guests sobbed quietly. The woman in blue stopped mouthing her words. The pact must be honored. The circle must be full. The debt must continue. One of you does not belong. Every candle went out at once. The darkness wasn't just absence, it was submission. Like the room itself bowed to the voice's will. And in that silence, we heard something worse than the voice. We heard footsteps. Wet. Bare. Dragging. Moving slowly behind each of us. I felt them pause behind my chair. I didn't turn. I couldn't. The breath returned. Hot and sour on the nape of my neck. Then the whisper. We almost chose you. The candles flared back to life. The guests were all still seated. Silent. Unmoving. But the woman in blue. She was gone. Only her envelope remained, resting perfectly centered on her now empty plate. And written across the card, in red. Second. No one dared speak. But I saw it in their eyes, what little expression still flickered there. This was not a game. This was a selection process. And we weren't the ones doing the choosing. The voice returned. Calmer now. More intimate. You are here because you answered. You are here because you opened what should have remained sealed. You are here to remind the world, forgetting has a cost. The marble behind me pulsed. My vision dimmed. One of you must feed it again. The table shook. Plates shifted. Glasses trembled. And in the center of the table, slowly rising from beneath the surface, was a black box. No seams. No handle. Just one slit across the top. And next to it, neatly placed on the table, 13 blank cards. Chapter 6: The First Missing. The black box sat in the center of the table like a tumor. It hadn't been there before. It had grown up through the marble like it belonged, like the table had always been waiting to offer it. 13 blank cards were laid out beside it in a perfect fan. No names. No markings. Just waiting. No one moved. No one explained. But deep down, we all knew what came next. A man across the table, older, thin, hollow-eyed, reached for a card with trembling fingers. His hand hovered. Shook. Then, silently, he pulled it close. One by one, the others followed. Some with panic. Some with resignation. Some without hesitation at all. I was the last. I didn't want to touch it. Because touching the card meant I was part of it now. No longer just an observer, but a participant. A piece on the board. But I picked one up. The moment my fingers touched it, I felt a sharp pulse behind my eyes, like something took note of me. Write the name. The voice again. Inside my head. Inside all our heads. One must feed it. One must be chosen. I didn't know any of their names. None had spoken. But as I looked around the table, something strange happened. I knew them. Not their real names, but labels my brain had assigned without permission. The smiling woman. The blue dress, gone. The crying man. The one who doesn't blink. The man who hums. And I knew who I wanted gone. The man beside me. The first one who tried to leave before the lights went out in the beginning. The one who hadn't reacted when the woman vanished. The one who, I now realized, had no reflection in his water glass. I didn't write a name. I just pictured him. Folded the card. Placed it into the box. The others did the same. 13 cards. No names. Just intention. The box clicked shut. The lights dimmed. The air turned sour. The voice spoke again. Thank you for your honesty. A pause. Then. Tonight, you have chosen, Michael. The name hit like a hammer. Michael. Who? I looked around. Everyone else was doing the same. Faces confused. Bewildered. Because there was no Michael at the table. Not anymore. Where once a man had sat, second to my left, there was only an empty chair. No clothes this time. No envelope. No card. Not even a memory. I searched my mind for what he'd looked like, what name I'd given him in my head. Nothing. The space in my memory was clean. Sanitized. Like someone had come through with bleach and a scalpel and carved him out of the night entirely. One more remains to feed it, said the voice. I froze. One more. I thought the ritual took one at a time. But the voice corrected me. She was unclaimed. This one is elected. 2 must fall. To balance the circle. The lights went out again. Total blackness. A sound followed, wet fabric dragging across marble. Bone tapping glass. A breath behind every chair all at once. I felt fingers brush the back of my neck. Then. Nothing. When the candles relit. The table was shorter. Not physically. But something was off. And the man who'd sat across from me, the one who hummed, was gone. Not erased. Just, never there to begin with. Even the number of chairs had changed. There were now only 10 of us. And yet, none of us could agree on who was missing. Not even me. Chapter 7 The Memory Game. I couldn't remember my last name. I realized it just after the second disappearance. I'd been mouthing it to myself, trying to ground myself, like a mantra. First name, easy. Last name, gone. Like the edge of a dream. I scratched at my wrist, hoping pain would wake the memory. But even my skin felt less certain. Like I was blurring around the edges. The table sat 10 now. Only 10 of us remained, though no one said it. Because no one was sure if it had ever been more. The chairs were spaced farther apart. Subtle. But noticeable. The candles seemed dimmer too, like the room itself was shrinking to match the dwindling guests. One woman, maybe mid-40s, stood up. I think we should leave, she whispered. We didn't agree to this. A few heads turned toward her. Others didn't react. Then she froze. Her hands trembled. Her lips moved silently, trying to form something. Then she looked down and whispered. Wait, what's my name? She sat again. Slowly. Carefully. Her face pale as wax. I looked to the person beside her, an older man with gray in his beard. What's her name? I asked. He opened his mouth. Then paused. Eyes narrowed. Was she always sitting there? A sharp chime rang out, like a fork striking glass, but deeper. Hollow. We all flinched. The voice returned. Only it wasn't like before. It came from inside the table now, low and resonant. The game has begun. Names will fade. Faces will shift. Truth is elastic here. Reality is memory, and memory is prey. I felt something itch behind my eyes. When I turned back to the man beside me, I didn't recognize him. Same beard. Same suit. But, not him. I looked across the table. The young girl with braids who had sat near the end. Now she looked different. Not older. Not younger. Just, wrong. Like she'd been recast in the middle of the scene. And the worst part? No one noticed. Except me. The walls began to hum. Not with sound, but with a pulse. Almost like the mansion had a heartbeat, and it was growing stronger the more we forgot. I pulled my phone from my pocket. Not to call for help, I knew it wouldn't work, but to check something. Anything. A note. A calendar. A reflection. No signal. No time. No apps. Just one file on the screen. 13 names. I opened it. Inside, a list. Redacted. Redacted. Me. Redacted. 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 Me. Redacted. Redacted. Me. Redacted. Redacted. I closed the phone. My hand was shaking. When I looked up, everyone was staring at me. Even the ones who no longer had irises. Even the ones who looked like people I used to know. Even the ones who, just 5 minutes ago, weren't here at all. Then the voice whispered in my skull. The circle rewrites itself. Memory is a privilege. And you are not its author. Across the table, the woman in the blue dress was back. I swear to you, she had been erased. But now she was sitting there, humming gently, dabbing her lips with a napkin. And next to her, I was there. A second version of me. Same face. Same scars. Same nervous hand twitch. But his eyes didn't blink. Chapter 8 Confession Circle. The woman in the blue dress was humming. Quietly. Tunelessly. Like a child playing with a song she hadn't heard since the womb. She had vanished earlier. I saw it. We all saw it. And now she was back. Same dress. Same seat. But her eyes weren't the same. Glacier. Deeper. Like someone had replaced her from the inside out. The voice returned. But this time, it wasn't inside our heads. It spoke through the room itself. The walls pulsed. The candles hissed. The chairs creaked in perfect unison. Speak what you remember. Speak what you deny. The room requires confession. The room feeds on untruth. The black box in the center of the table throbbed faintly. The man 2 seats down from me stood up. His hands trembled. My name is Oliver. No one reacted. I think I used to be a surgeon. I remember holding someone's heart once. It was warm. It beat against my palm like it was trying to speak. He paused. But I don't know if that memory is mine anymore. Or if the room gave it to me. The next guest stood up without being prompted. A young woman. Her eyes were dark with something between grief and exhaustion. My name is Sarah. Or maybe Rachel. I've been called both. When I was 9, I drowned. My brother pulled me out, but I remember the water. I remember the bottom. But when I asked my brother about it years later, he didn't remember saving me. He said I'd never drowned. He died last year. Or last week. Or, maybe he's still alive. The confessions continued. Around the table. Each story more fragmented. More contradictory. More wrong. A man confessed to pushing someone in front of a train, only to recant seconds later, insisting it had been himself he'd seen fall. A woman whispered about a child she gave birth to in a dream, and woke up with stretch marks. Another claimed he'd never received an invitation. But I remembered seeing him draw a card. Then it was my turn. The voice pressed into my chest like a cold fist. Speak. I stood. My name is. Silence. I couldn't finish it. Not because I didn't want to. Because I couldn't remember. I scanned the table, looking for help. For anything familiar. And I saw myself. Still seated across the table. Still smiling faintly. Still watching. I turned to the person next to me. Is that me? They didn't answer. But they didn't look surprised either. Just, resigned. Like they had already accepted that more than one version of someone could exist in this place. That perhaps, here, truth is a population, not a person. The voice returned. This time with certainty. The pact was broken. The guest was warned. And she still did not arrive. The blue dress woman stopped humming. Her eyes rolled back. Her mouth dropped open. From her throat, the voice poured out again, but not her voice. A chorus. Dozens of voices layered over each other. You were chosen years ago. You opened it and you burned it. You were warned. And now, your memory must feed it. She stood. Walked to the head of the table. Sat in the 13th chair. No one moved to stop her. Not even her. And when she placed her hands on the table, her fingers cracked backward, joints folding in unnatural angles, like they were learning how to belong to her. Her eyes turned black. And the room whispered one final line. The pact is now alive again. Then she vanished. Not erased. Just, absorbed. And in her place, resting on the chair, a second black box. This one pulsing. Breathing. Waiting. Chapter 9 The Pact Bearer. There were 9 of us left. I think. Maybe fewer. Maybe more. Because the more I tried to count, the more the faces changed. And even the room had shifted again. The walls were closer now. The marble darker, as if it had been stained by the confessions. Even the ceiling seemed lower, heavier. But the black box on the table still pulsed. Still waited. And beside it, something new. A single card. Blood-red ink. No envelope. No seal. Just one word. Reveal. The voice in the walls didn't whisper this time. It roared. One of you made the pact. One of you fed the room first. One of you invited the rest. There was no need for discussion. Because the moment the card appeared, we knew what it meant. This was no longer about surviving the ritual. This was about finding the host. The woman to my right stood slowly. Her hands were shaking. Her nails were bitten raw. I think it's the girl, she stammered, pointing across the table. She hasn't spoken. Not once. Not since we arrived. The girl she pointed to didn't respond. Didn't blink. Didn't move. Just stared forward. Expression blank. Face too symmetrical, like a photo realigned one too many times. Another man stood. It's him, he said, pointing to the person across from me. He hasn't changed. Not once. Same posture. Same expression. Every time I blink, he's in the same position. That's not human. A few heads nodded. One woman vomited quietly onto the floor and didn't apologize. Then I stood. Slowly. Carefully. Because I wasn't sure what I was going to say until the words were already leaving my mouth. I think it's me. Silence. Not shocked silence. Not fearful. Expectant. Like they had all already known. I think I've been here before, I said. I think I've always been here. I don't remember getting the invitation. Not really. I just remember opening it. And every time I close my eyes, I see this table. This moment. Like I'm watching it happen again. Like I'm stuck in a loop that only ends when someone else opens the envelope. I looked around. Maybe I started it. Maybe I'm the one who broke it. Then the voice returned. But it didn't deny what I said. It didn't accuse me either. It asked only one question. Would you feed them to save yourself? The candles flared. The walls breathed. And the ceiling twisted upward, revealing a second level above us, empty chairs. Dozens. Hundreds. All facing down toward the table. A silent audience. Every chair occupied by shadow. Each one wearing a mask. My mask. Then the girl spoke for the first time. Soft. Distant. Like she was reciting something learned long ago. It's not about who made the pact. It's about who breaks it. The bearer is cursed. But the breaker is devoured. The voice returned. Cold. Final. You have until the next knock. Reveal the pact bearer, or all names will be erased. Then, for the first time, we heard the knock. 3 slow, echoing knocks on the black marble beneath our feet. Like something was beneath us. Climbing up. Chapter 10 The host arrives. The knock was still echoing when the lights changed. Not dimmed. Not flickered. They changed. From soft candlelight to a deep, slow-burning red, like embers beneath skin. And above us, the gallery of masked figures leaned in. None spoke. But I could feel their judgment in my bones. Not personal. Just, procedural. The 13th chair, at the head of the table, still sat empty. But the black box was gone. And in its place, a hand. Long-fingered. Pale. Veined with ink-black lines that pulsed with memory. It rested gently on the marble. Then gripped the edge. And from beneath the table, someone began to rise. No one moved. I wanted to scream. I wanted to stand. I wanted to run. But my limbs were gone. Not erased. Just claimed. The room had taken them into its rhythm, and now I moved only when it allowed. The figure pulled itself up from beneath the table, slow, reverent, like a priest climbing the altar. It wasn't someone new. It was someone already here. The young man 2 seats to my left, the quiet one. The one whose name had never been spoken. He stood. Smiled. And walked, backwards, toward the 13th chair. With every step he took, the room brightened, not with light, but clarity. Memories sharpened. Voices returned. Faces reformed. I remembered people who had vanished. I remembered their names. Their screams. The exact moment they were erased. And when he sat, the room breathed in. The walls expanded like lungs. The floor rippled like a heartbeat. And the masked audience above us stood, in unison, and bowed. The host spoke. But not aloud. Not even with the voice in the walls. It spoke through our mouths. Every guest at the table opened their lips, and from each throat came the same calm, layered voice. Thank you for gathering. Thank you for remembering. The circle is now full. The man in the 13th chair looked down at us. His eyes were black glass. Reflective. Not eyes at all, just windows. And in them, I saw flashes of other tables. Other rituals. Other people, seated just like us, all whispering the same lie. We were chosen. He raised a hand. And 13 envelopes floated into the air. One above each of our plates. Mine hovered, trembling, the wax already cracked, as if I had opened it long ago. You may ask one question, said the voice. But choose wisely. Around the table, guests whispered. What is the room? Why me? Can I leave? What happens when it ends? Each time, the envelope above their head turned to ash. And they nodded. Sometimes in fear. Sometimes in understanding. Sometimes, in relief. When it was my turn, I said nothing. I just stared at my envelope. Waited. It opened itself. Inside, a mirror. And on the mirror, scrawled in blood. You already asked. And you already said yes. Then the host stood. Turned toward the gallery. Raised a finger. And pointed, at me. One must choose. Or the room will choose for them. Chapter 11 The Vote. We were still frozen when the envelopes turned to ash. They dissolved without heat, just quiet disintegration, falling like black snow onto our untouched plates. The host sat perfectly still in the 13th chair. Smiling. Not kindly. Not cruelly. Just, waiting. The walls began to pulse with that heartbeat rhythm again, slow, deliberate, like a countdown in reverse. The table groaned. And rising from the marble surface, like breath escaping from a coffin, came a second black box. This one was wider. Older. Etched with 13 names. But only one name was legible. Yours. The voice returned. Not many voices this time. Just one. Singular. Clear. The hosts. One of you must be chosen. The room must remain full. The pact must be passed forward. In front of each plate now sat a card. Blank on the back. Red on the edge. We all understood. We didn't need to be told. This wasn't a vote for who should die. This was a vote for who would inherit. The man beside me whispered. It's you. It's always been you. I turned to him. His eyes were already fading, iris drained to gray. The room wants someone who remembers. Someone who survives forgetting. It's hungry, but it's careful. It doesn't pick at random. Across the table, the woman who had once claimed her name was Sarah, or maybe Rachel, lifted her card. Her lips moved. No sound. But I saw it. I'm sorry. She dropped her card into the slot in the box. Then folded her hands. One by one, they followed. Each person placed their vote in silence. Each card vanished the moment it touched the slot, sucked downward like breath into soil. No one looked at me. No one smiled. No one cried. Because by now, we all understood. This wasn't a choice. It was a transfer. I was the last. The only card left untouched. The host didn't move. Didn't blink. Just waited. I picked up my card. It pulsed warm in my fingers, like skin. Not paper. And when I turned it over, my face was already printed on it. I dropped it in. The box sealed itself. The lights dimmed. And then the voice, now thunder in my bones. The room accepts. The host has been selected. The key will be given. I felt it before I saw it. A weight pressing into my chest. My spine. My thoughts. The shape of something ancient being handed from one mind to another. And on the table before me, a key. Small. Black. Carved with symbols I couldn't read, but felt carved into my very name. I didn't pick it up. Not yet. Because as I stared at it, I realized I already had. Chapter 12 The Offering. The key was still in front of me. Black. Cold. Older than language. It pulsed like a second heart. I didn't pick it up. But I didn't need to. Because the moment it appeared, the others stopped looking at me like a guest. Now they looked at me like a knife. A tool. A weapon. A judge. And I understood. The voice no longer came from the walls. It came from me. Without speaking. Without trying. It unfurled like smoke in my throat and spilled out as certainty. One of you must feed it. One final offering to seal the circle. The others didn't argue. No one begged. They had accepted this reality long before I had. Because that's what the room teaches you. Truth isn't something you escape. It's something you pass on. The 13th chair was no longer empty. I was sitting in it now. Though I didn't remember standing. Didn't remember walking. I just was. And below me, in front of the table, the floor had opened. A hole. No fire. No blood. Just absence. Unbeing. One of them had to go in. And I had to choose. I looked at them, what was left of them. Their faces flickered. Some looked like strangers. Some looked like people I'd once loved. Some looked like me. One guest wept. Another smiled. One whispered, Please, not again, as if this had happened to them before. But none stood. None ran. None asked for mercy. Because mercy was never part of the ritual. I don't know what I weighed in that moment. Memory? Guilt? Familiarity? Maybe it wasn't about who deserved it. Maybe it was about who I needed to forget. My finger lifted. It pointed to a woman near the end of the table. I didn't know her name. But I saw in her eyes a reflection of something I couldn't face. Myself. The moment I pointed, she nodded. Not in fear. In relief. She stood. Walked forward. And without ceremony, without a sound. She stepped into the hole. And vanished. Not like the others. Not erased. Not consumed. Just, offered. The floor closed. The table cracked down the middle, once. The candles flared blue. And the chairs began to vanish, one by one. With each disappearance, I heard nothing. Just a flicker of memory. A feeling. Like a page being turned. Until only one chair remained. Mine. And beside me, on the table. The envelope. Unsealed. Inside, a new card. Blank. Except for one word. Begin. Chapter 13. Your turn. The table is gone now. The chairs. The guests. The candles. All gone. Only the marble remains, endless, smooth, silent. And me. The 13th chair no longer exists as a seat. It's a position. A function. It lives behind my eyes now. Beneath my skin. Inside my name. The envelope before me remains open. The card inside, blank, save for one word. Begin. And beside it, resting gently on the marble, is a new envelope. Black. Smooth. Sealed in red wax. Fresh. Warm. As if the room had just breathed it into being. I pick it up. There's no question in me anymore. No resistance. No fear. No memory of what came before I opened my envelope. Because that's part of the process. The forgetting. The hollowing. The becoming. I turn the envelope over. And on the front, in crisp red script. A name. Not mine. But familiar. Your name. A knock echoes behind me. Soft. Rhythmic. Like a heartbeat with intent. It's the room. Or maybe it's you. Or maybe it's what's left between us. Knock. 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 I look to the mirror embedded in the black marble beside the envelope. My reflection isn't mine anymore. It's yours. I speak, though I don't need to. The words leave me like steam escaping a crack in reality. You left the door open. I've waited long enough. Let's finish what you started. I slide the envelope toward the mirror. The marble ripples like ink. And it vanishes. Delivered. Far away, in a house you thought was safe. On a counter you cleaned this morning. Beneath a flickering light you haven't replaced. A black envelope appears. No stamp. No return address. No warning. Just your name. And the message inside? You already know what it says. You've been selected. Join us at 1:13 a.m. Bring nothing. Tell no one.
The story may end here. But the darkness never sleeps. Like this video to keep the shadows stirring. Share your whispers in the comments. Your voice shapes the next nightmare. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Gothic Hour Stories and Mysteries. where every tale lingers and every soul leaves a mark. The Gothic hour awaits.